Exactly on time. I actually made it, I think, a little bit later. I don't remember when my first live was, what time I did it, but I was thinking of you when I did this one and thought, well, she always says she's at work and pops in a little bit while she's there. So maybe I'll make it a little bit later this time. How's everything going in Canada? I'm doing tea this evening. Part of the flush that I'm doing, I had to swear off of all caffeine for hey. I had to swear off of all caffeine for the full 2 weeks. So I actually did that maybe 5 or 6 days before the flush started because I didn't know how my body would react to it, and I did not want to deal with the caffeine withdrawal headaches while I was doing this flush, and so I decided to. I know, I know, and I was thinking a long time ago I cut back to like 1.5 cups of coffee a day. Hey, good evening. I was just telling Brown Eyed Girl that I have my tea tonight. I can't do any caffeine during this flush, and so I had cut back, yeah, maybe a week before, but a while ago. Um, oh no! I hope your arm heals up soon. Brown Eyed Girl said she may have some typos. Her arm is in a sling and it's auto dictating to her iPad. I Now, is that true? Or are you just saying that in case you say something untoward and then you can blame it on the iPad? Oh, we have several people in here, it looks like. It's good to not see you all because I can't see your faces, but see that you're in here and hanging out. But you're gonna have to keep me on track because I probably will go from subject to subject to subject because I get a little nervous while I'm doing these. But um, oh, you had to cut down on caffeine. Yeah, yeah. And you don't think about it. You don't realize how much caffeine you're having in things outside of coffee too. Because I'd have a little piece of chocolate here or there, and I love tea. I do a cup, like one larger cup of coffee in the mornings, but then I'll have a green tea throughout the day and a black tea throughout the day, and then I get those chocolate bars from Aldi, and they come with the like individually wrapped little squares or rectangles, I guess. And so I'll have one of those or sometimes two of those. And uh, in your head, you're thinking, okay, caffeine, I just have to cut back from the 1 cup. And then you forget all the other things that have caffeine in them that you're having. Um, you already had a sling, brown eyed girl. You got your sling out. Okay. Oh, you have, okay. When I was reading that, I thought you were saying you had surgery yesterday, and I thought, wow, you are dedicated coming on here after your surgery. It's from an old surgery. Okay. I'm glad you had it. Oh, I will have the green tea. You can have my other tea. Oh, yay. Congratulations, baby number two, roses and lace. That's amazing. Ah. Now, a little, just so that you are feeling better, I guess, or a little less anxious about it, a little bit of caffeine is okay. Now, you should have as little as you want to. If you're particularly sensitive to caffeine, you probably want to keep it as low as is comfortable for you. But depending on which study you're looking at, around 250 milligrams is usually the where you want to hit your limits with caffeine. And again, keep in mind your your teas and your chocolates and those sorts of things have it as well. Ooh, what kind is that? The low acid quarter caffeinated? I found a low acid that was decaf, and I didn't particularly love it, but it might have just been the brand that I had. I have found some like half calves that I really liked. I like to think that I'm a coffee snob, but you could put just about anything in front of me and I would probably drink it. And I don't know about any of you guys, how you like your coffee, if you like to get it out or make it at home, but I always notice anytime I get it out somewhere, like if I go to Tim Hortons or Dunkin' or Starbucks or wherever, even we when we do go out for coffee, we try to do small local businesses. So I'll say I like all of their coffee. But if we get it at a chain or something, I never like it as much as what I'm having at home. I make it and not have to bother people. We do from Canada, from Ontario, Canada, that is. When I'm at Nani's, if I look out her front window, I can see Canada. And when we go to her house, sometimes we have to put our phones on airplane mode because it'll tell us welcome to Canada. It'll be roaming from Canada. But from our house, we're about 3.5 hours away from Canada, which I guess is maybe for some people that seems like a really far drive, but for us, it's not like that's nothing. Um, are these foods healthy? Flax seeds, turmeric, black pepper, and yogurt? Generally, yes, those foods are very healthy. The your turmeric, and you want to have pup, uh, your turmeric, you want to have it with the black pepper because it becomes more bioavailable that way. But I would say in general, yes, very healthy, but there's always some nuance when you talk about nutrition. So, yogurt, is it healthy for most people? Yes. If you have a dairy allergy, is it healthy? Or if it's just loaded in sugar and has candy all over the top? No. But in general, yes, all of those foods are considered healthy foods. Um, you're still buffering, brown eyed girl? You might have to go out and come back in. Is anybody else having trouble? It looks good on my end, but it might just be fine on my end, and it might be you guys might be having trouble. But while you're figuring it out, while you guys are answering, um, I wanted to hop on today just to say hi to everybody because it's been a while. And um, oh, is it me? Our internet is good. Hmm. Let's see. Just double checking my connection here. Well, our Starlink is good so far, but if everybody else's is buffering and freezing, it must be on my end. So I'm not sure. I guess I'll just uh, oh yeah, I guess it could be a YouTube problem too. I didn't think about that. Um, but I did. If we keep having a bunch of problems, let me know. I can repeat myself, or we can always try this again. I like hopping on and talking to you guys. But if anybody has questions about any what's going on right now with my because I know I kind of made a giant change going gluten free and then told you guys a little bit about what was going on and why I was doing that, kind of what was going on in the background. I know myself, if there's somebody that has something going on, I want to ask 100,000 questions. A very I like to call it curious. Other people would call it nosy. So if anybody had questions and wants to know things, I'm happy to answer as much as I can. Um, and if nobody has questions about those sorts of things, then if you have questions about what's going on with the channel, if you how the project is going, anything you're curious about there, and or if you just want to share some things and we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. But so roses and lace, you said how long is the current cleanse? And I don't know if I answered that already, and I don't mind answering questions again because some people might be getting. So I started last Monday, so I'll finish up this Sunday. And all the foods in it, I really like most of the foods. They're all very good. I just, after 1.5, almost 2 weeks, I really, I'm craving some Thai food, actually. I would really like to go out for some Thai food at the end of this, which I think probably the closest place that has it, if I don't make it myself, is probably a little over an hour away. So we'll see what happens if I end up making it out there or not. And and I don't know. I apologize. I have no idea how to pronounce your name, and I destroy it. So I'm going to just read your question. Why can some people eat junk food and it doesn't affect them? Your grandfather eats a lot of meat, sugar, alcohol, processed food, fried foods. You know, it really there's a lot at play there. It could be a lot of different genetics going on, and there could be a lot of underlying issues as well. Now, your grandfather, it might affect him more than what he's aware of. If he's always eaten a lot of foods like that and he doesn't eat healthy foods as well, it might be that if he had been eating healthy foods, he might feel a lot better and be doing a lot better than what he is. Some people can handle things like that, some people can't. I will tell you, before I've obviously updated you guys, and hi, Troy. Thank you. I appreciate it. Um, I probably, if I didn't realize later, have periods where I felt a little better sometimes. The way I feel now has been just about a constant, except, some up and down periods for almost 20 years now, basically my entire adult life. I don't think I would have known that I could feel better, or for myself, I've always considered myself very healthy. Even though I felt the way I'm feeling, um, I I still would say that I never get sick. I'm always very healthy. I, no matter what, I never get colds, those sorts of things. What I didn't realize was I was getting them. I just was not acknowledging them or acknowledging the way that I was feeling. Um, and you said your grandfather, he's eaten whatever he wanted his whole life, never had any problems. Oh, God bless him. He has really good genetics. Now, is he 1909? Wow. Uh, does he eat generally healthy things as well? And how active is he? I would say his probably has a lot to do with genetics. And I know there are people in my family, my husband's family, who don't eat as well as, or don't eat what I would consider a healthy diet. And many of them live way beyond what people who are really careful about everything they do eat. But it is a lot to do with genetics in that regard. And brown eyed girl, you're in a good mood. Your hockey team is slaughtering a team you don't like very much. I'm very glad to hear that. Do you have a lucky jersey that you're wearing? Is that why they're winning? Do you have some sort of a ritual that you do? Mhm. Gracious sports are not fun. Yes. Never ate. He's a bit overweight. Your grandfather, he was very active until about a year ago. It looks like for him, eating whatever he wanted worked out for him. Yeah, I'd say that has a lot to do with genetics. And I hope that you were able to inherit some of those genetics. And uh, for some of us, it works out and you're perfectly fine. And some of us, not. It also, what I think also has a lot to do with it is depending on the area that he lived in, there are places that people live in too that might be a little like the air that they're breathing is less healthy and the chemicals that they're exposed to more. But then there are people who smoke their whole life and are never affected by it. And am I pronouncing your name right? Galia. I might be saying it wrong. I'm not sure. Your last video about you had similar brain memory issues. Yes, after a week-long EEG. I didn't see that it was a week long. Did you say it took you 2 years of doctors to figure it out? Okay. I'm trying my best here to pronounce things. I don't know if I saw it or not. If you were the one that it took you 2 years and several doctors, but you had do you want to share? You don't have to share if you don't want to, but, um, if I didn't see it, I would love to know what they found for you. Oh, okay. Absent epsil ep absent epilepsy or petit mal seizures. Okay. And are they able to take care of that with medication? Or, like, did they give you a protocol moving forward with how to deal with that? That's a long time to wait too. A week-long EEG, that's a long time to be having. I assume you had to wear did you have a wearable device you had to, keep on you at all times? Brown Eye Girl, you have a couple videos you need to get caught up on. You wanna go back and read the comments on this channel. You're gonna I usually wait to see what you have to say because usually it's hilarious. I don't usually stop laughing, uh, after I've seen yours. Okay. And then so your dad also eats whatever he wants, but has issues with his glucose levels, heart issues. Your dad must have gotten everything from your mom's side instead of his father's side, or his mother's side instead of his father's side. And Galia, meds worked in the beginning, causing the seizures and making memory worse. So, okay. I imagine they might have to change up some of your medications a little bit. Did they say if there was anything else that could be helpful? It's great that you had a medical provider who was open-minded enough to think to request the right tests. Yes, you need a new EEG. Yeah, that makes sense. Time is the next step for treatment to work. Happy Gardener, is that for Galia? For me? It's a it's really interesting to have these conversations, because my I'm j I feel like I'm talking to all of you, and I'm picturing all of you sitting on the other side of my table here, uh, but I'm having, like, 5 different conversations at once. It's fun. It's like a little bit of, if playing ping pong, I would say just playing ping pong, but I guess it's playing ping pong with, uh, both hands. And I guess for if anybody saw last week's video, Chef Scarlett, if we're using our toe fingers as well, playing with hands and feet. Yes, I have been seeing a dietitian now for about 2 years, and she was the one who actually started digging in and caught on to all of this and said, "Hey, I think you have something autoimmune going on." And as we were we ruled out arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. And then after I started describing a few more of my symptoms to her, she said, "I do you think you had some mold exposure?" And so I said, "Well, yeah, definitely. Unquestionably, I most certainly have several times throughout a lot of years." And that's when we started. She ordered several tests. I was able to do them through her. Unfortunately, this is not something that insurance covers. And so I'm extremely lucky myself. And I don't remember what I said in my video and what I cut out because I talked for so long and I didn't want to keep it like 4 hours long and just bore everybody to death. But um, it's really, yes, yeah, mold. That's brown eyed girl. Mold is what I think has caused everything else. So the first thing they found was when I did my um, GI mapping test. And I think I described that on the video. It was uh, a very, very interesting experience where, uh, bye, happy gardener. You have a blessed night too. Cats. Um, so the the test that they did, I'm reading everybody's comments as I'm telling the stories, getting distracted a little bit. The test that they did, my GI mapping test, which is a stool test, and it went about as well as what you probably could imagine doing an at-home stool test into a what looked like a cardboard French fry hot dog holder went. But they found microsporidia, which is a fungal parasite. And I think what I left out in my other video is it's not found very often in immunocompetent people, which I think I would be considered. It's found most often in immunocompromised people. So I think it's most widely associated with people who have AIDS, but also transplant patients and people who are undergoing chemotherapy. However, my thoughts are I don't know that that's true. What I kind of wonder, and maybe it is true, maybe it isn't. My dietitian said I think I'm the first one she's ever seen with a GI mapping that came back with this microsporidia. But I wonder if people who are generally healthy, like I would consider myself, just don't get tested for it because why would you? So if you're just having these pains in your gut, you might consider that it's a million different things, or it might just be nothing, which is kind of what has gone on with me for the last 20 years until she had me tested and found this. So, in addition to that, also, we ended up doing a mycotoxin test, and that was through urine. So it was showing the excretion of all these different mold spores. And what I think is going on is mold attacks the gut first, typically. And so I think it has just been wreaking havoc in my gut for so long. There's been just a constant inflammatory response in my body and in my gut. And it's caused enough damage in my gut that I can no longer tolerate. And I don't know how long I haven't been able to tolerate gluten. I just did it anyway. So, but it it's very frustrating and upsetting to me that while I'm very, very lucky myself that I can afford this sort of, I mean, it's a big stretch for us. I know probably most people and the people who are going to be affected by this the most can't. And even if they can scrape up the money to get the testing done, because I think each one of those tests were several $100s a piece. Um, so if they can afford the testing, then they have to have their home tested. And I don't know how much that is yet, but it's not cheap. And then okay, they find the source. Now they have to pay for the remediation and then for all of the treatment in it. And it's a very long, extensive process that healthcare doesn't really, at least in the US, typically mainstream healthcare doesn't recognize, so they won't help pay for it. So again, I totally I am exceptionally feeling very, very lucky that we are able to probably cover most of what I'll have to do to get better. But most people here, at least in the US, really probably can't. And they're going to continue to be sick because they won't be able to get the testing done to figure out if this is what's wrong. And even if they can't afford the treatments for it. Um, so I guess off of my little soapbox there, just just something that is a little bit frustrating. But Debbie, I'm going to go back up there. Debbie, yeah, Chef Scarlett was very impressive. She is a riot, and I never, whenever I go and visit with her, I never leave without laughing more than I think I've probably laughed in a very, very long time. She is funny and she's very smart. Um, Roses and Lace, your mom's undergoing tests as well. They can't figure out much. They're talking about autoimmune disease. I mean, if they haven't been able to find anything in all of her other tests, if now I can, if any of you guys want to see the symptom test that I was sent, if you email me, and my email should be in the description of all my videos. If you email me, I'd be happy to send you what the the questionnaire that I got with some of those symptoms that I had are just I would have never thought of them at all. I didn't even think some of them I didn't even think they were symptoms, like having a chemical like or a burning kind of a burning chemical smell in your nose or the back of your throat sometimes. That happens to me often and I just assumed it was like, oh, maybe I'm just sensitive to chemicals or maybe the air is funny in here and my nose is weird and it's just burning a little bit. I never considered that that could be a symptom of something. Um, Debbie, you said you would agree. Who would get tested, let alone a medical professional suggesting it? Yeah, no, no medical professionals that I have seen so far in a general healthcare setting has thought of it or suggested it. And the rheumatologist that I'm seeing right now, when I hadn't had my mycotoxin results back, but I did have my microsporidia results back, and they were just like, no, it probably doesn't have anything to do with it. Just keep taking the medication. Um, and yeah, I don't know. In Canada, I know there's always, at least here in the US, there's always talk about how our healthcare system is both superior and inferior. So I don't know what the differences would be. It would be wonderful if they would cover it. He said, I don't cook a lot, and I handed I Chef Scarlett. Oh yeah, Chef Scarlett handled her knife better than I handle mine. She handled it better than I handle mine too. Just I don't think Lottie's on here, but just ask Lottie. I my knife skills. I failed my knife skills class my first round of college. I think everybody in the class did though. Roses on Lace, that would be great. Send an email back home in a few weeks, and I was going to ask my mom about her tests. Okay. Your mom has had exposure to mold. Yeah, I I will send that if you send me over an email so that I have your email address. I'll be happy to send that over to you. And if you have any questions, as I'm just going to be starting the treatment for this soon, and I think it's going to involve a lot of different steps and things. And I think from my understanding so far, it takes a long time. And if you do it too fast or you do too much at once, it can be an overload and you end up getting more sick. Um, if you were to have gone slower or not done anything at all. So as I kind of muddle through the treatment of this, and if this happens to be what she has, I would be happy to answer any questions and kind of help share what is happening with me if she has questions about that. If someone got the best genetics, ate the healthiest, how old could they live to be? I think I saw that there's somebody that's 116 years old. So I would say somewhere the limit is 116. However long God decides to keep them on this planet. I don't know. I don't know. Nani is 86 years old right now, and I think she has okay genetics, and some things she eats are very healthy, some things she eats are very unhealthy, but she's still kicking. And I talked to her today. She was she gave a speech at some high school today. She's speaking at Buffalo State in April, I believe. So she's still kicking it. 140 to 160. Holy moly. Nani is a rock star. Yes, she is. I don't know if I'd want to live to be 140 to 160, but maybe that's a lot of time to do a lot of cool things. There's a lot of people to meet and a lot of this earth to visit. Nani, I'm going to be seeing her in a couple more weeks. So that's very, very exciting. I don't know if she's excited, but I am. I have one more video from we made 3 different things. I went up there a couple weeks ago for a wine tasting. And while I was up there, I brought up a bunch of boxed gluten-free baked treats. And so the end of them, the very last one, we made brownies, was the last one that we made. And I believe that video is coming out next Tuesday, or this coming Tuesday or Wednesday. It's like a little less than a week from now. So you'll see what she thought of those. You'll get to see a little bit more of Nani. I hope your arm feels better, brown-eyed girl. You better heal that thing up. Have a good night. Yeah, the brownie one. There's Nani and I do a bit of bantering. Brown Eyed Girl, you let me know when your arm is feeling better and we'll do a celebratory live. Debbie Bailey, your friend was diagnosed with celiac disease, so looking for things to make her. That's good. That's really nice that you're supportive too. I know that can be really frustrating when you have a need that you can't eat certain things and you want to socialize with people, and it can be really hard sometimes. We have a friend who can't have RBST, the growth hormone that's found in dairy. He thought he was lactose intolerant or allergic to dairy for a while, I believe, but he found it was just the growth hormone. So there are, when he comes to our house, in general, now we try to buy all of our dairy without it anyway. That way, first of all, it's probably a lot healthier, but that way, anytime he comes to visit, there's no question about whether he can have something or not, because now we just kind of buy everything to make it second nature, first nature. I don't know which nature, but it's really nice that you're doing that for your friend. And they make a lot of really not bad gluten-free things now. The gluten-free Oreos are good. I will tell you that. Even before I stopped eating gluten, I liked gluten-free Oreos. But there's all sorts of really great substitutes at this point. And even if you want to make something that wouldn't have it naturally anyway, there's all sorts of really delicious things that just don't naturally have gluten in it in general. I will say, just if you're making things in your kitchen for her, yeah, way much more. And going out to restaurants is a lot easier. You can usually find something. But if you are making something for her, you just want to make sure that there's no cross contamination of anything in your equipment or your dishes and things like that. So, like, if you normally, I don't know how you are, but I'm a hurricane in the kitchen typically. So if I were to have baked something, it's a very good possibility that if I had my sugar out and my flour out and whatever else it was, I would be pulling my flour out of or with a spoon out of my flour container. And then maybe a little later, I might use that same spoon to dip into my sugar. So my sugar could have gluten in it. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you're baking something for her. And I'm sure you already are, but just for anybody in general. Um, Roses and lace, you've never been tested, you've been in and out insurance, but you can feel better when you haven't, there's a heart in my way, when you've eaten gluten, when you haven't had gluten for a while. Yeah, you might be, I mean, you might not have celiac. So just because somebody doesn't or can't have gluten doesn't mean that they have celiac. There's a lot of kind of in between in there. And there's also, so something else in the mold category that I've seen as well, people who aren't actually sensitive to gluten, if the products that they're eating, their wheat products, could have mold on them also. So sometimes it could be not that they're sensitive to the gluten, but they're sensitive to the mold that's in some of the foods. So some people might be, you might notice that you feel worse after having gluten, but also maybe after oats and maybe after certain fruits and things that typically have some more of that mold on them. Or you use different scoops. Just wanted to be safe. I'm For myself, when I'm taking care of myself, I'm not as careful. I try to be much more careful when I'm taking care of other people and other things, but when it's my own and in my own kitchen, it's a disaster. Now, does anybody else? We've been here about 40 minutes. I don't want to keep people too long, but I'm happy to talk as long as you want. I don't have any other plans tonight. But anybody have any other questions? Anything about this? Anything about the project or the channel? Or you do have some hormonal issues. You've been researching gut health. Baby number 2 is a curveball. Okay. I hope a very happy curveball. That's very exciting, but that's good. Yeah. There is so much of your health is affected by your gut. And I know a lot of people don't believe that or believe in that. And there's also a lot of misinformation out there about gut health. So it can be really scary and it's not something, it's something. So in dietetics, I'll say I have a base knowledge of many things. However, my specialty isn't hormonal health. Actually, the dietitian that I see, her specialty is the hormonal health. So I what I primarily work in or have a general, I guess I would call it my expertise, my area of study is pregnancy and lactation, infancy, early childhood. It is extremely overwhelming when you're looking into it by yourself. And I can't imagine how much more overwhelming and frustrating it is for you. For me, it's frustrating and overwhelming. And I have a good base knowledge of this stuff, but there's a lot to sift through. And there's a lot that is not, there's a lot that's evidence based. And there's a lot that there isn't a lot of evidence for yet because they haven't studied it formally at this point. So it's really frustrating and it can be a lot to try and figure out on your own. I totally agree. And if again, when we're emailing back and forth, if you have some questions, I might not be the best person to ask about hormonal issues, but if you have questions about your pregnancy and those sorts of things, I will be happy as a friend, not as a professional. I'll be happy as a friend to answer some of those questions if you have them, because I know it can be scary and really frustrating. I also don't know, I don't remember if you're in the US or not. I will say a really good program to be involved with during your pregnancy for anybody out there. There, there are limits to it, but WIC is an excellent program for people who are pregnant or if you have a baby that comes into your life, whether it is through birth or not, if you're a foster parent, adopting, anything like that. And you you want some information, some help. The help with the food is incredible. Like that's a that's what they're mostly known. I think they're probably mostly known for formula, but um, the what I think is even more valuable than the food help is the information and the education. If you get the right, now I know some WIC ladies are notoriously terrible, but are the one that's who I worked for before. I worked for them as a dietitian and then also as a nutrition education coordinator. They Most of the nutritionists that I worked with and that worked under me were incredible and have the biggest hearts in the whole world and just want to help give information and educate and support. So yes, do look into that again because really if when you're going through all these other things, and I just went and got groceries today a little bit before this, and it was like $100 for not that many groceries. So if they can help with a little bit of those healthy foods and things and that information and education and maybe get you some other resources as well, that frees up a good bit of your budget to work with some other things if you need to budget for your health and medical expenses and things too. And you don't, now I'm going completely off topic here because we're talking about 1920s food. That's the point of this, but I'll getting back on. I got off the soapbox early. I'll get back on. Just if even if you're over income for WIC, if you have medical assistance in your state, you should qualify. If you get SNAP benefits, medical assistance, anything like that, and you in order to qualify for medical assistance, you also don't have to have an income, like there isn't an income barrier all the time with that. If your baby was born premature or has some sort of other medical issue and you might need a little bit of extra help with that, you qualify as well for medical assistance to help cover some of those other expenses if you have a medically fragile baby. And If you qualify for that, you also qualify for WIC. Anyhow, um, yeah, 20, oh my goodness, born in 2020. God bless you for real. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of limits on, oh, how that when that was baby number one, that was your first baby, was in 2020. Yeah. I don't know if that's my last soapbox ride. I usually say that and then I hop right back on. There's I have every time, one of those soapboxes gets old and collapses, I there's another one right after it, ready for me to jump right back up on. Oh, yeah. Wow. I give you all the credit in the world to have had a baby in 2020 and have it be known the first baby when you don't really have any experience probably then. And even if you have experience helping with other babies, you don't have experience of giving birth and having your own baby yet. Yeah, that is a lot. Oh, yeah. Email me. We'll talk. Anybody else? Anybody have any questions, any thoughts, anything like that? Hey Beth. Yes, we just I've already been on my soapbox twice. You missed the first two. It we could be lucky number three. What is it? Third time's a charm? Is that it? Or three strikes you're out? I don't know which one this one will be. um we talked we've covered a lot of different things. We've bounced all over. Um hey Paula. We bounced all around on subjects here or there. So I was just asking if does anybody have questions about anything really? If you wanted to know about anything going on with my health, now that I gave some of those updates, if you want to know anything about the channel, if you want to share anything, any experiences, anything like that. Yeah, three strikes, you're out. Yeah. Galia, where you check for sleep apnea. Lack of achieving REM sleep can cause a lot of tiredness, and you have tons of issues as a result of it. I so I didn't get checked for sleep apnea, but I do know, excuse me, sorry. I I don't sleep well in general. I don't think it's sleep apnea. I think it's just I struggle to fall asleep, and then once I do, I really struggle to stay asleep. So I wake up a lot throughout the night, and then once it comes time to wake up in the morning, that's in the morning when it's time to wake up is when I don't have a problem going back to sleep. That's when I can fall asleep, which is not helpful at all. So I agree. I don't think that I get into the REM stage, the REM stage very often, or at least long enough as much as I should. Yeah, Beth, I saw that you had posted, but it it didn't it wouldn't come up. Like every time I tried to click it, it was like it erased your comment or something. And I checked. I thought maybe you erased it or something, or you deleted it. I thought, well, did she get mad at me or something? And does she not want her comment out there? Or because it wasn't in the I didn't really think that, but it wasn't in the like there's an area in YouTube where it'll say that they're holding the comment for review, even some that I've responded to already, and there's nothing questionable about the comment, but they'll hold it. And so I try to check it pretty often. Yours wasn't in there, so I don't know what happened to it. But YouTube is weird. It's just weird. So you said, oh, you're a medical microbiologist, and oh, fantastic. fantastic. I would, if you don't mind emailing me at some point whenever you have a moment, I would really appreciate that. That would be wonderful. I the mycotoxins I think are pretty straightforward and understandable. Um, Horror Beauty FX, hey, we're still talking, we're still chatting. It's the microsporidia that I guess, from my best understanding, it's notoriously hard to kill, and I don't know what the treatment plan for that is, if it's similar to a mycotoxin or not. For some of these things, I try to do some research, but I also try not to do a ton of research on my own because there's so much, I know with nutrition at least, there's so much misinformation out there that I don't want to get locked in, go down that path and think I'm on the right path when I'm on a very, very wrong path. So yeah, I would love to have your input on some of that. Okay, so Gailey, you said you were having the same issues and that's why they checked you out. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you sleep best too in the morning when you need to wake up. Yeah, really inconvenient. Really inconvenient. Now, is the sleep issues why they had you tested? Hold on a second. Let me go back up here. I'm looking back through your comments. Okay. So the sleep issues, were they okay? They did it at the same time as the EEG. Is the sleep issues and the sleep apnea, like, do they think that was related to the epilepsy, and the seizures? Bye, roses and lace. I'll email me and we'll talk. Have a good night. Yes. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So your mom, so you come from some good educated stock, Beth. It's I've never even heard of it before this. It's not, I've taken classes in microbiology and oh, Cindy, you haven't missed it. We're still talking. Uh, a lot of different courses, and I know it, you learn a very, very minimal amount in university, but and you learn more once you get out and get experience in actual labs and working. But I don't think it's one I had ever seen or heard of before being diagnosed. Oh, wow. Your dad is a CRNA, doctor of nursing. That is exceptionally impressive. So I'll feel like I'm in very good hands when I talk to you. Okay. So Galia, the stress and company. Company, like if people come over and visit, company sets off seizures. Okay. All company or just company that stresses you out? That you're not nearly as impressive as them, but you do your best. So you're the funny one. Okay, that makes sense. Watching certain television shows, like an action scene or anything like that, when it things move too fast, does that bother you, or are you able to kind of look away, or doesn't it affect you? I know. See, this is what I'm saying when I ask too many questions. I'm nosy. It's because I care. I want to know these things about you. But you can tell me to stop asking questions at any point. That's perfectly fine. And if people don't have too many more questions or anything like that, I'm happy to keep hanging and chatting and whatever we want to do. But if not, if people have asked what they want to ask, say what they want to say, we might wrap it up in maybe like 5 more minutes. But unless people want to keep talking, that's perfectly fine. So, yes, and online, going to a funeral recently, very crowded, and you had one because so many people passed by me. Okay. If you close your eye, I know this might be a silly question, but if you close your eyes and stop the eye movement, are you able to kind of cut that off before it happens? So do you get stressed if there's clutter, decor on the walls or whatever? Oh, girl, you would hate my house. Wait, which way are we going? There is so much everywhere. Um, yes, yes. You would be completely overloaded in my house. We love stuff a lot. Okay. All right. Beth, you're heading out pretty soon. Thank you. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. So, how can you tell if treatments are working for something like this? So, Horror Beauty FX, I think it takes a very, very long time for the treatment to work. At least that's what I'm gathering so far. I'm in the very beginning stages of learning about this. Um, but I think probably what will happen is I'll feel worse before I feel better. Excuse me. And I told you guys I burp all the time with that medication. Um, but I think with the treatments, I will feel worse before I feel better because it's starting to eliminate some of those toxins, but it's bringing them up to eliminate them. And it's going to take a long time. I think it'll probably be a little while before I start feeling better and I can tell. My understanding also is that if it's working, if I test again and I do some of these urine tests, the levels should actually go up. Um, okay, Beth, you said the treatments will mess with you a bunch, but as you clear them, uh, you'll notice it. Yeah. I think that the test should show an elevated level of, yes, of the toxins because I'm excreting them. Now, I should be excreting them through urine, through bowel movements, and I believe through sweat as well. I don't have a sauna in my home at this point, and I live in the middle of a national forest, and there is no spa, gym, anything very close to me. So I don't think it's within our budget to get one at this point in time. I think some of the even smaller ones that I was looking at are somewhere around like $1,000 for an infrared sauna, like a small blanket kind of one. So I don't think that's in the cards, but I think sweating, pooping and urinating as well is how it'll come out. Uh, I don't know if that answered your question or not. Um, Keela, we're still here. Okay. Gailey, you said your memory is like how I described mine. Okay. Yeah. I think so. A lot of my sleep is an issue, but a lot of the brain fog also, I believe, probably comes from the mold as well. I think that's a classic symptom of it. Oh, I'm so glad to hear you're seizure free for a while now. That's wonderful. The sh I did consider that we have an kind of an open upstairs shower, and we have a tankless hot water heater, so it is, and, like, our hot water never runs out. So I did consider that's probably what I'll do, is just turn it on as hot as it'll go, sit in the corner where it's not hitting me, the actual water isn't hitting me and giving me second-degree burns, and then, I will just sit in there and sweat as much as I can stand it. So you did a urine test for parasites, Keela. Urine or stool test? Yeah, that is interesting. It seems that there are now, obviously, I don't think that anything is a coincidence ever, but it's very interesting that I can't even tell you how many of you have reached out and told me that you are gluten free. So once I hit the stage of gluten free, I thought, why would this happen? Why would I be doing this for like 6 months and then all of a sudden I have to cut out gluten and every one of these menus has gluten in it? This is going to be a disaster. People are going to be upset. And then how many of you told me that you're gluten free and that it's wonderful to see all of these gluten free adaptations because you want to be able to make them too and be able to eat them and try them as well. Um, and then now there's how many people in here with very similar medical issues. And, I'm having this medical issue that I'm having right now, and everybody else is talking about them, that they're having similar uh, symptoms and nobody can figure out what's wrong with them. And, maybe this was the point of the channel. Maybe uh, it's a it's a historical eating food recreation thing, but really we're a medical support group. Oh, Horror Beauty FX. They do have portable saunas online for a reasonable price. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for that as well. The least expensive one I could find. Now, I should say, I was looking at infrared saunas. Um, and the cheapest one I could find was just under $1,000. The other ones were like the ones that, and that was like a little suit that you kind of lay in. The ones that you sit in were closer to like two or $3,000. And I'm sure if I did a lot of other things, I I could afford it. If I cut out like everything else in the world and sold a bunch of stuff, I could, but I just don't want to. I think I would prefer to just lay on the floor of my shower. Sensory deprivation tank. We did one of those actually. Our home is way too small for that. So I would love one, but we went to Ohio and uh, did it. And I did it for the purpose. I didn't. I get very distracted with a lot of things. I'm not good. I can't meditate. I can't clear my mind. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go on one of those. I can't have my phone. I can't have any distractions whatsoever. I did it for prayer, and I didn't. I I didn't dislike it. I kind of liked it, but my husband hated it. But yeah, in our house, there is no room for a sensory deprivation tank. And I don't know that we'd be able to. That's a lot of salt. That's a lot of salt for a sensory deprivation tank. Okay. Horror Beauty FX. You have a friend that's been put on a histamine diet. Never heard of that too. She had issues like me. So does she have to cut out things that are high in histamines? Like, does she have to cut out like, wine and tomatoes and things like that? Cindy, you also have brain fog? Yeah. It's amazing how many people have similar symptoms. And how many, and I think too, that's probably where some things get missed because so many things seem connected. Um, the so that pain in my stomach, I was convinced for a while that I had endometriosis, and that's why I went to the pelvic pain clinic actually at the Cleveland Clinic however many years ago. And I actually 8 weeks ago, I ended up going and having a laparoscopic procedure done about 8 weeks ago to determine if I did or didn't. And thankfully, no, beautiful, clean looking insides there. But I do have, and I'm going to pronounce this one wrong too, adenomyosis, which is what the doctor called the bastard cousin of endometriosis. And it's where those that tissue and cells grow inside of the uterus instead of outside and attach onto your organs. But there is also pain, inflammation, pressure associated with that as well. So I think if I had found out about that first, I wouldn't know that. Like I wouldn't have thought to move on. I would have just thought, okay, well, that must be what's causing the problems. Um, no alcohol. Yep. Some meats just to cut out probably all like processed meats. Oh, and she has celiac and they're pulling the histamine as well. Now, is her histamine diet temporary or does she have to go on that long term? And are they testing like are they eliminating and then adding some back in to see what she reacts to? Cindy, can they treat it? Sort of. So the options to treat that are to do nothing. The other option is to go on hormonal birth control, which I had been on when I was younger for a very long time. And I had all those same issues when I was on the birth control. And I'm just not interested in taking hormonal birth control. So that was not an option. And then the other option is to do a hysterectomy. And for myself at this point right now, if it's a hysterectomy or some discomfort and pain at this stage in my life, I am going to just do nothing and kind of live with those symptoms. And I think many of them will go away once my gut heals and everything else ends up being okay. Um, yeah. Now they would leave the ovaries the only thing they would take is the uterus, but I agree. I think at this point, I don't know what that would do long term. I'm just going to keep her in there. She might be a little bit annoying. She might bug me a bit, but I'm going to keep her for a while. Okay, yeah, short term. What's making her body react? Not sure what options she would have if it doesn't work. It has to be frustrating. Yes. I did the same thing for a little while. I we had to cut I think my body reacted to certain foods, but also an overload. She might have to, once she figures out which ones trigger her, depending on how bad her body reacts to them, she might just have to keep it low for a while. So maybe only a little bit of dairy, or if she's going to have dairy today and a glass of wine, then tomorrow she has to keep everything else a little bit low. Yeah, I imagine it's very frustrating, especially to have celiac on top of that. I guess it would help that she doesn't have a lot of choices to make. She probably doesn't have to really make too many decisions about what the heck she's gonna make for dinner because she doesn't have very many options. Mm, that I will say that has been the nice thing the last week and a half. My I'm having food fatigue with everything that I'm eating, but it is nice to not have to think about what I'm going to have. Like, it's already been decided, I already know. Aw, okay. I know I said we're gonna talk for 5 more minutes, and then I talked nonstop for another 20. Anybody else have thoughts, questions, anything you wanna talk about? We're gonna go back and watch a video as soon as it's up. Oh, this video. Yes. I don't know how long it takes to process. I'm never really sure. You look like you feel okay. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I feel good now. I think, and there's something to, so we'll go back on a different subject. Things that, and I don't know if um who is still in here, but when the question was asked, like, how long can you live if you eat really well and have good genetics? One of the other things I think that's so important to our well being is community. And so, um, the I think I always look healthy and good when I'm talking to people because I'm happy. And well, not always. I guess it depends. It depends on who I'm talking to. But when we're in community and talking, and I don't um yeah, there are, it says 18 are in here. So 18 of you. Now I'm 18 times as happy, Cindy. You When I am talking and in community with other people, I don't notice that I feel tired. I don't notice that my back hurts or anything else, any of these other symptoms. I might notice that I brain fog because I can't think of the words I want to say, and I might notice some of those other things as well. But I notice some of those other reactions. I don't know if it's showing up when I start talking to people sometimes, that redness on my face and itchiness and hotness. I don't know if it's coming out on camera now, but it is. I have a whole hot red flush going on right here. But the rest of it, yeah, you can see it. It's because I'm talking. It just happens. Um, when you're in community with people, at least for myself, I do feel better. I feel healthier. I feel happier. Now, when I'm done talking, at least socially, if I'm in a group of people, after I get home, I probably don't ever want to go out again. I just want to stay home and never leave. But I think there is a lot to be said about community and friendships and bonding with other people, which is kind of the overall point of this channel. Beth, you said there's an unprecedented predominance of autoimmune and gut disorders in our country these days. How many are because of our highly processed diet? I think our highly processed diet has a lot to do with it. I think there are other things, and I think it's a compounding issue as well. And goodness, the soapbox that I have to get on to talk about this, I think I would need a ladder to get up on it. Because there's something to be said about, and I agree that fed is best and that infants need to be fed and mothers need to be supported. However, our just automatic to feed our infants formula without supporting our mothers and teaching them how to breastfeed and supporting them in that breastfeeding journey, you're losing out on a lot of the different microbiota that could end up in that infant's gut. Then that infant is going on to eat highly processed foods, and they're living in an environment that is probably full of chemicals and different endocrine disruptors. Then and in addition to that, there's also all sorts of other things that could be going on, all sorts of stressors that their body reacts to, changes, and remembers. Then they get pregnant, and that DNA that they had then is passed down to their infant. And that infant, while in utero, is making all the eggs it's ever going to make. And all of those issues that the mom had here are now happening here in the baby and now in the next generation. So I think our food is one of the biggest issues, being so highly processed and all of the pesticides and chemicals that it's treated with. And then in addition, and then also not only that, our soil doesn't have the same minerals in it that it did however long ago and that it has in other countries. So even our healthy fruits and vegetables, they're still healthy. However, they're not as healthy as they used to be. And I'm going to stop right there because I could keep going for hours and hours and hours. But yes, Beth, if you're still on here, it is absolutely a duh thing. Yeah. Processed diets. Yes, I agree, Paula. We're inactive. And I'm saying this while I'm talking to you on a screen. So I realize how ironic it is. But I know myself, I am absolutely addicted to my screen and my phone. And even when I am being active, I'm not as active as I should be because I'm being distracted by my phone. And so some of these steps I could be taking and things I could be getting done, I'm not because I'm distracted by something else. So, yes, 100% food quality, activity levels, everything, 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 everything. And I think now when I'm saying that, it's a really scary thing sometimes. Um, Thank you, Beth. Have a really good night. It's important also to keep in mind, you don't have to, if you want to start working toward getting healthier or moving toward a healthier life. Good night, Debbie. You can take baby steps. you can just change one thing and start there. And if you change that one thing, you are one thing closer to being healthier. And then after that one thing, if you can then make another change and do the second thing, then you're two things closer. You're if you are moving closer every time, I, that's fantastic. It doesn't have to be an all or a nothing. Um, Galia, yes, email me anytime. Life was better when phones were attached to the wall. Yes, I mean, I grew up with a phone attached to the wall, and I don't think I'm that old. Like you know, I'm getting up there, but I think the phone that was in one of the houses I grew up in was from my grandparents. So it was the rotary phone with the twist. Ooh, you had a party line, Cindy. I did not ever experience that, but I did experience the rotary dial phone. And I was in elementary school. Um, yeah, I totally agree, Keela. Whatever you can do to improve your health, even if it's something small, even if all it is, if it's not any of the food and all those other things we talked about, even if it's just getting going and volunteering somewhere so that you're in community with other people who also want to be active and helping other people, that's such a big thing. Horror Beauty, you run 7 times a week, hike every weekend, kayak. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Hiking is my favorite. I can tell you for sure I'm not a runner. Definitely couldn't run, but I love hiking. We have kayaks. We live near a river. We don't go that often. Um, Someone rang back at you when you hung up hard. Yes. I think I was in elementary school probably when the internet really first started coming out, and if I wanted to be on the internet, you couldn't be on the phone, or if somebody needed to be on the phone, you could not be on the internet. Uh, it and I my so Nani's husband, my grandfather, my uncle, his son is very, very techy. He's a very high tech kind of guy. He works in some sort of tech field. And this must have been my my grandfather went to the Cleveland Clinic around the year 2000. So this was still in maybe the mid 90s. They brought him he had a computer downstairs, and my uncle and his wife, my aunt, who is my Nani's favorite child or grand out of all of her family, uh, my aunt, her daughter-in-law is her favorite and definitely should be. But they showed my grandfather this new internet, that he had the old internet and they got him the new high speed internet, and his mind was absolutely blown. He was so amazed because he said, I type it in and I click the button and the page just comes up. Usually I have to wait like 5 minutes before I can get it to come up, and you just click it and it's up. And now, I mean, can you imagine if I have to wait 4 seconds for a page to load? I'm probably losing my mind. I'm like, why? What is wrong with my computer? Why is this so slow? What's going on? Is something broken? And he was just absolutely, and I can't imagine. We talk about that with Nani now. Her father loved grocery shopping. And so that it's my very favorite activity. And thinking about if he were to be alive today and went grocery shopping with me, it I don't know, he would die right over. He wouldn't be able to handle a Walmart or something like that where you can just go and have whatever you want in your hand at any point in time. Can you imagine someone from 1920 transporting themselves here in 2020? I can't imagine what it would be like. Yes, so many choices. You remember when you had to wait for a picture to load? Yes. Yes. You might as well you had to go and do another errand or chore before you came back and it still wasn't done. Oh, it's it's a double-edged sword. Technology and the ability like this to connect with people all over the world and have community without if you can't leave your home, this is amazing to be able to do. Your dad was born in 1927. He had no phone car. They still used horses. Wow. That's amazing. We still we live near a lot of Amish people, so they do still use a lot of some of those things, but they also have all sorts of technology as well. Your mom passed in 1982 before the tech world exploded. Yes. Yeah, I think about that all the time. What they had. They couldn't even pick what you wanted and how much back in the day. Yes. Yeah. It's it's wonderful because you can just now in our area, it's very rural and most of the people in my area look just like me. So some of the availability of foods is very limited. There isn't a lot of diversity in our food. It's getting better. It's getting a little bit better. But the things that I can't find here, if I were to decide to get on Amazon, I'd have to pay up a little bit. But if I wanted something to be here in, well, we don't get it in 2 days anymore. Sometimes it takes several weeks to get here, but I could have anything I wanted and at any point in the year, just about too. I wouldn't have to wait for it to be in season. Cindy, you got your first computer in 1985, a Tandy 8088. I've never even heard of that. I wasn't quite born yet in 1985, but that is cool. I remember my oh, you live in a very rural part of Northeast Alabama. You're yeah, very limited. I will say the thing I like about being rural though, like we have discount grocery stores where I'm at. We have a lot of bent and dent Amish run stores around here. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Sharp Shopper, but we have a Sharp Shopper. And near our Sharp Shopper is a local dairy farm that has A2 raw milk that you can buy from them. So having the ability to go to a farm and one that you know is safe and that you has been inspected and you know you're not really running the risk of all of the evils of raw milk and being able to get local meat and produce and actually get it from the farm, not from a farm stand that says it's local, but then you turn your uh, apple over and you see that they left the sticker on from another country, so it's not actually local. And horror beauty, your great grandma's like that. Saw horse and buggy when she was young, saw cars, computers, lived to be 106. You know what? She lived through so many leap years that she probably technically did have her 107th birthday. That's incredible. 106. That's amazing. Yeah. She could have raw milk with no problems. The raw milk, was it, do you know if the people that she got raw milk from had dairy cows that produced A2 milk? because that is generally a lot more easy to digest. People that can't handle A1 milk can handle A2 often. Cindy, you were with your grandparents when they butchered cows, pigs, and chickens. What an amazing skill. I had the opportunity to help at a friend's farm butchering chickens once, and I thought I would be really squeamish or sad about it, but I wasn't. It was an amazing experience. I've never had the opportunity to help with cows or pigs, but I would love to. Keela, you have a Mennonite community close. You sometimes get milk and cream, butter, and produce. Oh, yes. Picked in the morning and put on the shelf. Yes, that's fantastic. Your parents would not let us drink raw milk. That was the 50s and 60s. It's still demonized now. And even in the dietetics community, there's a big divide. There's a lot that would be very upset to hear me say that I am a big supporter of raw milk. But the risks of it can be very serious, but they're exceptionally rare. And if you are ensuring that the farm that you're getting it from is producing the milk under sanitary conditions, you don't really need to be that concerned. Now, if you're severely immunocompromised, or if you don't know and you've never seen the farm where your milk came from and they've never been inspected, then I might hesitate. I personally, if I haven't seen the farm where it came from and it isn't a certified or hasn't been checked and tested that sanitation is okay, I wouldn't drink it. However, why does it seem that there's a lot against it? I will say because the USDA is firmly against it, and the reasoning that they say is because the risks, if you were to be exposed to the bacteria, that could cause problems. It is a very, very serious issue. It's unquestionably, and it's not made up. They're not pretending that these people got sick and that this bacteria could happen or it could be contaminated with this bacteria. However, it's very unlikely, particularly if you're getting it from a safe and sanitary source. There's a lot of divide amongst just about everything in the dietetics community, I will say. I am not a member of the AND, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I haven't been since I graduated with my bachelor's. I don't know if it was a requirement when I was obtaining my master's, but during my internship prior to sitting for my exam, once I was out of university and studying, I never joined the academy again. There's a lot of divide. There's a lot of controversy, I think, and I think a lot of it is it is an evidence-based field, but there's a lot of different evidence, and depending on the source of that evidence, you just have to decide for yourself and look at that research and consider who put the research out and what maybe the opposing research says. There's a lot. There's a lot. So Regina, you said your grandparents were adults and married with children during the 1918 flu epidemic when we're having a global pandemic. And I imagine that it was probably a lot worse for them back then than it is for us. It was for us in 2020. But for those of us, or for those that it did affect, it was terrible. But I would love to know their experience through that. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to go back and ask people who have passed all of these questions? Yeah, Cindy, it does. It depends. Keely, you can't butcher chickens. They're your favorite farm animal. Yeah. I don't know. I think if I had to, we could butcher ours. I don't, I think I could. I had talked about if we have a bunch of ducks, and I had talked about we would we eat them? Would we like they produce eggs, and some of their eggs are wonderful, some of them are not wonderful. Would we butcher them or not? You know, maybe we should get some experience doing that. And I thought that was going to be grounds for divorce. My husband was horrified. He's a hunter. We have a lot of we do I don't do any hunting, but he is a hunter, so I thought he would be like, "Yeah, it's food. That's a great idea." No, they are our pets. How dare I even suggest something like that? So, uh, yes, we couldn't do it to our pets because they're pets, but for farm animals, yes, it would be okay. But I understand. Yours can be for the eggs and for the company. All right, anybody else? Anybody? Oh boy, it's been 40 more minutes after the last time I said. Cindy, your husband was a softie about your pigs. Yeah. I assume he didn't do much of the butchering. Okay, you process your own beef, Keela. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, Cindy. Keela, I wish you lived closer to me. I would ask if I could come help you butcher your beef because that would be just such a wonderful educational experience to have. Okay, you had to sell your meat, Cindy. Yeah. All right. Horror Beauty FX. Thank you for staying up this long and spending the time. Yeah. Thank you guys for being here. This is amazing. I love talking to you guys. I don't know why I haven't done it more often, but I said that the last time. We're gonna have to do this more often, and then it was like, what, November was the last time I did it. It's been several months, so but we're gonna have to do this more often. No, I still have another meal to eat. I have a smoothie to finish off and an electrolyte replacer drink. I think I still. Oh, it is 9 o'clock. I forgot it gets later as time goes on. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I do need to get off. All right. Well, if anybody has any. Oh, you're central. Okay. That I'm Eastern. I'm PA, Pennsylvania. So we process our own deer here, but nothing else. And when I say we process it, I mean they process it out there. They skin everything and take care of most of it. They gut it. I haven't, I watched it once. I helped a little bit, but it's really cold out there in November when they're hunting. So usually I'm inside waiting with a meat grinder and everything else and uh, pressure canner to work on the rest of it. Eastern Michigan. Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I think then you can email me, you can message me. If you guys are in the Facebook group, bring up discussion points there if you want to. Otherwise, I guess I'm going to say good night, sweet dreams to everybody. This was really fun. Thank you so much for being here. Good night.